So I am from La Paz, Bolivia, and so this is a picture actually of my neighborhood. It's surrounded by mountains. It's at 12,000 feet above sea level, and basically the most amazing outcrops in the world. But I did not know that. I thought the entire world was like that. And then I moved to Texas. It was flat. And you know, I come from a family that really does not have a geological background. They're mostly lawyers, business people, medical people, and whenever I tell them what I do, they try to listen, but then they don't. And so really now is how every time I go home and I'm on the plane and I appreciate those mountains so much, and I didn't when I was growing up. But in 2019, I took a big step of faith and came to the United States by myself, leaving my family behind. I barely spoke English, but it was the best decision I ever made. And I'm thankful for my parents to let me just go without ever visiting the city of San Antonio or Texas. And so I thought I was going to do engineering. I did not obviously know what geology was, but I was super lucky to have been paired with one of the most amazing geoscientists at Trinity University. Her name is Kathleen Surplus, and she basically told me everything about geology, and I just got hooked. You know, you can go outside and get paid to do that, and I was like, I'm in. And so I just took classes because honestly I enjoyed it, and I ended up graduating. To the students, one of the best advice I got while being an undergrad was to do undergraduate research. It wasn't really my idea, it was a push from my professors, and I'm so thankful because at the end of the day you're graduating and a lot of people get A's. And it's really what differentiates you and what you can speak of something that's yours. And so doing undergraduate research, I had something that I had done for an entire year that I knew more than anybody else, and I could talk about during interviews, applying for grad school. So I am just so thankful about my professors pestering me into doing research, because it really opened the door to most of the opportunities that I've had. So that's just a few pictures of me enjoying the field, and that's what I thought my career was going to look like. But really I graduated in 2013, and without a lot of mentorship around me of knowing what you could do with a geology degree, I really did not know what I was going to do with the future. Like, well, this is an amazing, classes, but what am I going to do with it? And so most of my friends and peers went immediately into grad school. They're like, oh no, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, grad school will dictate what path in geology I want to do. So I took a year off, and I was working at the Bureau of Economic Geology as a research assistant. And I worked under a researcher called Scott Hamlin. He was the sweetest mentor I've ever had, and that's the first time I started understanding the definition of a mentor and actually knowing, okay, I have a degree in geoscience, but I really know nothing, and I need to absorb from you. And he was so patient and just showed me that, you'll never stop learning. And we published a few papers together. It was amazing. But really, most of that year was, who do I want to be? What is this geology thing? And can I really get paid to do this? And the Bureau was amazing because, well, you have all kinds of geology there. So I always had exposure to, the mining part of it, seismology, carbon capture, oil and gas, sedimentology, stratigraphy, and really I was like, okay, there's a lot that you could do and very different, right? And so I did notice the oil and gas industry was really strong and present at that time. The price of oil was really high. So there were a lot of toys around with every time that the sponsors came, so it was like fun day. And so I was like, wow, I want to do that. How do I sign up? And so I was like, okay, I'll take the GRE. So I started studying for the GRE and applied to the University of Texas because just it has an amazing connection with oil and gas. And I was like, if I'm going to go to school and do this again, it needs to end up in a job. And so the amazing thing is that these graduate schools, pay you to go to school most of the times. And then I was able to be part of this Gold Basin Depositional Synthesis project, which is basically a consortium that is sponsored by the industry that does research about sedimentology and stratigraphy in the Gulf of Mexico. So it was perfect because, at least for me and for what I wanted to do, right, you were doing an industry applied research, and then I was also at the same time getting exposure and presenting to all of our sponsors. So it was an amazing time, and it really gave me the tools that I wanted and kind of the gateway to the job that I needed. So during my summertime, most students do an internship and hopefully get a full-time offer. And so I took an internship with a company called Freeport-McMoRan. You might know it. It's mainly a mining company, but at the time, it did have an oil and gas exploration division. And so I interned with them, and it was great. However, the company wasn't doing really well. So none of the interns got full-time offers, and actually a few months after the oil and gas part of the company closed. And so it's a big bummer. I was like, oh, I've done all this, and now I've ruined it. It wasn't me, so I don't know. But so most of my peers had jobs offers for the next year, and I was like, well, now what am I going to do? So went back to school and said, well, I have to finish this, and I said, okay, I'm going to present my research not only within my consortium, but I need to expand outside. So I went to a bunch of conferences, like my peers, and so in one of them at APG in Canada, I was presenting a poster, and it happened to be an ExxonMobil recruiter. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't know, I would have prepared even more. But she was amazing. She gave me a card, and it led to, even though the internship season was over, she told me, come for 1 month, we'll try you out, and if you do good, maybe you'll have an offer. And I was like, oh my gosh, 1 month, I need to learn everything. But I did. I think it was just 1 month. It was short enough that they couldn't tell I wasn't that great. But anyway, no, it was amazing. It was actually an internship. The project was Gulf of Mexico. My thesis was Gulf of Mexico. My advisor was an ExxonMobil. He retired from ExxonMobil, so it just fit like a perfect glove for me. And so I started in 2017 with the Mexico team. I was there for 2 years. We were a very active team at the time. We were like going through licensing rounds, telling basically the company whether or not we should acquire acreage or not. And then I was moved into the Brazil operations team, where this past few years have been really active, planning wells and then executing our drill campaign last year. So it's really amazing. This is a picture of the famous cube, but I really wanted to point out that there's a lot more behind the cube. It's a giant company, and really smart people are out there, and it's basically like a college campus out there. And so I'm just really privileged to right now work for a great company. But to all the students here, really there's a big world out there for geosciences, not only in oil and gas, but in many other fields. And if any of us can answer any of your questions, please ask, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.